Check the mic, we're going live. Stories told, they rise and dive. Topics fresh with every spin. You won't guess what's coming in. Every week a new surprise. Minds awake, never lies. Conversations bold and free. Tune in now, just wait and see. This podcast is uncalled for. Catch us here, there's so much more. Laughs and tales you can't ignore. A journey that will leave you floored. In the night or in the day, just press play, we're on our way. Voices sharp, opinions bright.
Hello, everybody. So we're back. This is season 11 now of Uncalled For. And I am recording this actually on January 7, 2026. 5 years ago, yesterday, we had the biggest domestic terrorist attack on American soil take place. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because I want to do my part to counter the false narrative, in fact, outright lies about what happened on that day. And I feel this is the one chance I'll get to do that in such a timely manner. So I'm going to ask to start us off, who won the 2020 presidential election in the United States? There's only one correct answer, and that answer is Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. If you answer anything else, like, oh, there were irregularities, you should not be voting, or driving, or procreating, for that matter. Because that lie formed the basis of what happened on January 6, 2021. Context, what was I doing on that day when this happened? I was doing DoorDash that day when it happened, and I heard it on the radio. I was listening to NPR and their coverage of what happened. In fact, I'm going to draw a lot from NPR today, because to their credit, NPR put together they call it a visual archive of January 6, 2021 through the lenses of those who were there. So massive credit to NPR, and now you know why he wanted to defund these bastards. Talking about Donnie, whose full name will not be mentioned on this podcast. But at this point, like I usually do when I'm reading articles and websites, I will pause if there's a need for me to pause to add my own spin on things. But largely, I will be reading verbatim. If you hear me say Donnie, that is what I choose to call the president. I do not think he has not earned my respect enough to refer to him by his by President Trump. That's the last time you'll hear me say those words in that order in this episode of the podcast. So, NPR.org, you can find this. And here we go. So, in the immediate aftermath of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, American political leaders almost universally condemned the riot as an act of domestic terrorism that threatened democracy. True. But only one side of the aisle really did anything about that. So, The other side was content on continuing to count out to Donnie's demented ramblings, and they still are to this day for the large part. Now, Donnie calls J6 a day of love, and the writers, great patriots. Okay? Unfortunately for Donnie, much of this was caught on video. You can watch those videos today. Just look up J6 or whatever. That wasn't love that I saw in those videos. In fact, it's quite the opposite of love. I saw a bunch of traitors attacking the one building that is a symbol of our democracy. Attacking police officers and defacing the property. Forcing the politicians who were there to do their job to go into hiding for hours. Preventing them from doing the people's business as prescribed by the Constitution of the United States, by the way. Alright? These aren't patriots, these are fucking traitors. Alright? And since he issued mass pardons to these traitors, his administration has been trying to rewrite history. And credit to NPR for not letting him get away with it. So, NPR has tracked every J6 prosecution in a public database, and there is a searchable database, apps.npr.org/jan-6-archive/database.html. And drawing on thousands of hours of footage, because these idiots were videotaping the whole thing. Yeah. And years of reporting, created a frontline attack of the riot. The evidence vividly shows the planning for revolution and the brutality of violence on a day that continues to shape American politics for the worse. Explore the database and coverage, or scroll to read the full narrative, and we'll scroll to read the full narrative. By the way, this material includes profanity, violence, and references to suicide. All right. So we got the story, we got the database, we got other coverage, and we got an about page. Okay. So, and at this point, they're asking for donations because, of course, they stripped all federal funding from both NPR and PBS, to the point that the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which had long been the funding mechanism for both these organizations, was forced to shut down just a couple of days ago. So they have a donate button here. So without fear or favor, at NPR, the journalists have full and final authority over all journalistic decisions. This commitment is a vital component of our mission, so is keeping our reporting freely accessible so that everyone can benefit from it. When public media thrives, more people are better informed. Pay it forward for your community by giving what you can today. And there's the donate button. So here we go. Chapter 1, the run-up. Heading into the 2020 presidential election, the country was engulfed by overlapping crises. Once again, proving Donnie's utter incompetence as a leader. I still can't understand why anyone would want this guy back. All right. Those crises, well, COVID pandemic, which forced the this podcast and a lot of other shows onto Zoom and everything. And credit to Zoom because they are a good. It is a good software for our purposes. I mean, that's how I've been able to do long distance interviews like we have. Everything. So credit there. All right, prolonged lockdowns, which as a DoorDasher, didn't apply to me for the most part. But along with mass protests, counter protests, and at times violent arrests following the police murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. Okay, the man had an officer's knee crushing his neck. All right, that's beyond disputes at this point. Yeah, we have to. Police have to find a better way to handle arrest situations. All right, to the point that you're not accidentally killing a man like that or intentionally. Yeah, you can't be doing that. All right, and on that side notes, police really should not be a partisan issue, in my opinion. All right, it's something that benefits society as a whole, to feel protected and everything. And do I think the police is perfect? Obviously not. However, there are reforms that can take place. Some sensitivity trainings and that sort of thing. So police can be improved upon, I believe. All right. So let's continue. During a presidential debate between Donnie and Joe Biden, Donnie was asked whether he would condemn violence from the right wing as well as at the far right as well as the far left. Sorry. For further context, I believe I talked about this in an earlier episode. There are studies on this shit, okay? Over the past 20, 30 years, give or take, there have been organizations tracking politically motivated violence, and they break it up into three categories: right wing, left wing, and Islamist. Right wing violence makes up the majority of the political violence that we're talking about. Deadly political violence, which I'm going to read the exchange here, and then you can tell me that this is a left-wing problem, because I guarantee you it is not. All right, just look at the evidence. So, Donnie, do you want to call them? What do you want to call them? Give me a name. Give me a name. Go ahead. Who would you like me to condemn? Chris Wallace, the moderator. White supremacists and racist. Biden adds the Proud Boys. Wallace again. White supremacists and white militias. Biden again. Proud Boys. Donnie. Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. You don't say stand by unless you're giving orders to attack. All right. What he should have said was stand down. All right. Language is important here. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing problem. Again, the studies strongly disagree with you. Okay. And Antifa, there's no organized Antifa movement. It's just a short form of anti-fascist. All right, those who are against fascism, which is a right-wing ideology. All right. Add anti-Semitism to the fascism mix, and that's how you get Nazism. All right. Anyways, the Proud Boys are a right-wing street gang with a history of violence. They received a boost of membership following Donnie's comments. And ahead of the election, which I remind you was held during pandemic times, so social distancing was a thing, and there was a lot of encouragement for people to vote by mail. All right, so voting by mail, there's nothing wrong with voting by mail. Okay, if you vote by mail, that creates a paper trail. All right, paper trails are a kind of important thing when it comes to voting. So ahead of the election, Donnie repeatedly claimed that the only way he could lose was through cheating. And it's hard to cheat when there's a paper trail, jackass.
And hopefully we have judges that are going to give it a fair call. Because if they give it a fair call, we're going to win this election. The only way they can take this election away from us is if this is a rigged election. We're going to win this election. We're going to win this election.
I'm just reading what's here, folks. So that's all set up, saying that violence is a left-wing problem, which it's not. Incontrovertibly, it's not. Certainly, all the left-wing protests I've seen, especially the last couple of years, heck, even just a couple of days ago, when Donnie Dumbfuck there decided to illegally bomb Venezuela and take their leader into custody. He had no right to do that. Period. All right. Absolutely no right to do that. No, and certainly not without congressional approval, because the military was involved, and that was an act of war, and Congress. This is in the Constitution. Congress declares war. Okay? Anyway. Chapter 2. Stop the Steal. So on election night, long before election officials or news networks had declared a winner, Donnie had claimed that he had won and that the election was being stolen from him.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Okay? Pause. You do know that those votes have to be counted, right? And they're not going to be counted in one night. All right, it's as simple as that. You can make that's what the networks do. They make a educated guess of who won based on preliminary counts and all that. But the counting process itself takes quite a while, actually weeks, at least a couple of weeks, to get every single vote counted and tallied and all that. And there's recounts that happen too. In fact, if it's close enough, a candidate can request for recounts. So no, it wasn't guaranteed that night. All right. It takes time to count, and let's also not forget all the mail-in ballots that have to be counted, all the military ballots that have to be counted, and all that. So just because it's election night does not mean we know for sure who the winner is that night, unless it's an obviously one-sided race. So almost immediately, Donnie, his campaign, and his allies were leading what they called the Stop the Steal movement. Courts across the country almost universally rejected Donnie's claims of widespread election fraud or other irregularities. Okay, pause here. So election fraud, for the most part, does not really happen. At least not the way that people like Chris Kobach would have you believe. All right. There are already rules against people here illegally from voting. You have to be a citizen to vote. All right, that's true everywhere. So that's something they like to throw out and everything. And it's a very rare thing, you know. And ironically, the people most likely to be caught lately have been on the right. See where I'm going with this? All right. So inside Donnie's campaign, officials privately acknowledged that they have found no evidence of fraud, and that could have changed the outcome. State election officials also certified Biden's victory, but Donnie continued to press them. We've heard this phone call before, so look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have because we won the state. In this case, Georgia. And flipping the state is a great testament of our country, because it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you would call it. If it was a mistake, I don't know. A lot of people think it was a mistake. It was much more criminal than that. Biden won Georgia fair and square. So, drop it. A central focus of Stop the Steal was a protest movement led in part by right-wing activists such as InfoWars host Alex Jones, he of the insane shirtless rants, longtime Donnie ally Roger Stone, who's so psychotic he has a Nixon tattoo, and white nationalist and Holocaust denier and anti-Semite Nick Fuentes. Who, by the way, Mr. Fuentes, I don't know if you're aware of this, but your movement hates anything Spanish sounding, so you might want to change your name to further appease these people. And on December 19, 2020, Donnie posted to Twitter, Peter Navarro releases 36-page report alleging election fraud more than sufficient to swing victory to Donnie. A great report by Peter. Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election. Big protest in D.C. on January 6th. Be there, we'll be wild. Ooh, sounds like an invitation, doesn't it? January 6th, we'll be wild. Come to D.C. Yeah. That day, Congress was set to meet to certify the election, as constitutionally required. As a process, that's typically ceremonial. Right? Just acknowledging, so-and-so has enough electoral votes to win the presidency. But Donnie was pressuring Vice President Mike Pence and Republicans in Congress to try to reject Biden's victory, which, once again, they had no right to do so, because Biden won fair and square. And anyone who would suggest otherwise should not be allowed to vote. They're proven they're too stupid to be trusted with a vote. Moving on. Even before Donnie's tweet, Sam Andrews, whom prosecutors described as a longtime oath keeper, appeared on a podcast where he encouraged Donnie supporters to travel to D.C. armed. Alright, that's another bullshit talking point Donnie likes to throw up, is this was a day of love, they weren't carrying weapons. Here's this guy saying show up armed. Federal prosecutors presented evidence that members of the Oath Keepers circulated this video, and I'm not going to play the video, by the way, ahead of the attack on the Capitol. Andrews was not charged in connection with the riot. Ethan Nordine, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct, sir, but this guy's a prominent member of the Proud Boys. He spoke out in favor of using physical violence to oppose the government in a podcast on December 31st, 2020. And again, there's video, and I'm not going to play the video. Prior to January 6th, John Richter posted a video of himself loading bullets while election-related news played in the background. Prosecutors later introduced this video at Richter's trial, where he was convicted of multiple charges for breaching the Capitol. And prior to January 6th, Russell Taylor recorded a video showing the items he plans to bring to D.C. Taylor later pleaded guilty to conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, specifically that vote count. Okay. So this is all leading up to that day. Once again, Biden won fair and square. All right. People at the time saw just how incompetent this jackass was and wanted him out. And I am frankly one of them. So, and it still baffles me that anyone would want him back. And yet that's exactly what happened. In part because we had an incompetent candidate on our side. So, well, I wouldn't exactly say incompetence like Donnie incompetence, but I would say there was absolutely no way I was going to vote for Harris. All right. I think it was a mistake by Biden to name her vice president in the first place. She is way too corporate for a huge number of Democratic voters, myself included. So yeah. And clearly we still have a sexism problem in this country. You know. Chapter 3. Moving on. How the assault on the Capitol unfolded. So, oh, nice. It shows a map of D.C. at this point. Shows the White House, the Capitol. That diagonal there between the two is Pennsylvania Avenue. You have the National Mall, along which, if you've ever been to D.C., that's where all the Smithsonian museums are located, along the National Mall. And they have and it highlights the ellipse, which is immediately to the south of the White House, like right across the street, which is a big park area, kind of ovular shaped path, hence the name, the ellipse, where this Save America, and that's what they called it, even though it's kind of ironic because all this movement has done was come close to destroy America. But I digress. So, and there's a video of Rudy Giuliani. Fuck that guy. So, on the morning of January 6, 2021, Donnie held a Save America rally at the Ellipse, a site near the White House and approximately 2 miles away from the Capitol. Multiple speakers promoted false claims of voter fraud and advocated for Pence, again, not necessarily a fan of Mike Pence. You know, he is the Christo-fascist thing going on here. But on this particular day, I will give him all 100% credit for just doing what the Constitution says and doing the right thing and certifying that vote. So they were advocating for Pence to overturn the election results. Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani spoke at the rally and argued that more time was needed to investigate alleged election fraud. Again, none was ever found because it wasn't there. So let's have trial by combat. Does that sound peaceful to you? Trial by combat? I don't think so. I'm willing to stake my reputation. The president is willing to stake his reputation on the fact that we're going to find criminality there. And he's lying, full of shit, and inciting violence with that trial by combat language. The Secret Service screened approximately 28,000 people who watched Donnie's speech at the Ellipse. Pause. Let me tell you about my experience with the Secret Service. The Secret Service, they're tasked with protecting the president and those in the president's orbit. I did a video job in St. Louis, 2014, I want to say, at which then Vice President Biden was speaking. Yes, the same Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. that we're talking about here was speaking to the veterans of foreign wars. And I was there to help with the video work. So first thing I had happen when I got hired on was had to do all the background checks with the Secret Service so that they could say, yeah, you can be here. That you're not a danger to the vice president or anything. But the day that Biden was speaking, I was the first one up. Well, it's right across the street because our hotel was right across the street from America Center, the convention center in St. Louis. So just walk across the street, and already Secret Service was there with metal detectors and everything. And I saw a good over an hour. So I'm just standing there chit-chatting with the Secret Service people, talking about my days working security and everything. And they were really cool dudes and all that. So they have a tough job, but at the end of the day, they're just people. They're just people. Just don't piss them off. So, moving on. Agents confiscated 269 knives or blades, 242 canisters of pepper spray, 18 brass knuckles, 18 tasers, 6 pieces of body armor, 3 gas masks, and 30 batons or blunt instruments, according to subsequent congressional investigation. I'm sure they'll talk about that a little later on. Next map, this is at 10:28 a.m. that morning. Same map, but now it's highlighting the Washington Monument, which is like if you had a right triangle, the short axis would be where the White House is, and the long axis would be the Capitol. The Washington Monument would be at the right angle. And it says, a group of Proud Boys gathers there at the Washington Monument. Alright, so meanwhile at 10:28 a.m., more than an hour before Donnie began speaking, a large group of Proud Boys gathered near the Washington Monument and began marching towards the Capitol, just down the National Mall. All right. U.S. Capitol Police estimated that there were roughly 200 people in this group. The aforementioned Ethan Nordine, who was a prominent member of the Proud Boys, helped lead them on the march. All right. Next, we're at 11:47 a.m. and it shows the path of the Proud Boys from the Washington Monument down the mall. So Washington Monument is west of the Capitol, but it's showing that they stopped. The march took them east of the Capitol, to the east side. So the group of Proud Boys marched around the Capitol, arrived at the east side of the building. At 11:47 a.m., Daniel Scott, a Proud Boy known by the nickname Milkshake, yelled, "Let's take the fucking Capitol." Fucking is bleeped there, but yeah. "Let's not fucking yell that, all right," responded another Proud Boy. Nordine, "Idiot," was his. And then, "Don't yell it, do it," said another member of the group, replying as the crowd continued their march. Why would you need to take the Capitol? All right, why would you need to announce that, especially with a police presence there, idiot? And by the way, terrible nickname. At 12:15 p.m., new map highlights the ellipse. Rally audiences begin to march, and in their case, that marches down Pennsylvania Avenue, down that diagonal there. So Donnie begins his speech at noon and reiterates his false claims that radical left Democrats stop. There's nothing radical about the Democratic Party. Again, Bill Maher said it best. Democrats have moved to the center and the Republicans into a mental hospital. All right, that's very much the case today. I dare you to find me, outside of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I wouldn't even include Bernie in this because Bernie is technically an independent. Outside of like those two people, you'd be hard pressed to find a Democratic politician who is, at least an elected one, who is even remotely radical left. All right. If anything, there is a far more radical right that has a death grip on the Republican Party, but that's beside the point. And the fake news media. Pause. So yeah, I participated in a focus group on fake news and how to spot it. Part of that group was our current Congresswoman, Sharice Davids. And yeah, that was quite the interesting experience. But to spot fake news, that's where media literacy comes into play. Being able to spot certain stories, be able to fact check those stories, and that's how you know. Assuming you're using reputable media sources, that's how you know if a story is fake or not. Donnie misuses that fake news media thing in his demented brain. Fake news is just anything he doesn't like. So CNN, fairly reputable source of information. Fake news to this guy. NBC, MSNBC, or MS Now, I guess they're calling themselves now. Granted, a little more left-leaning. Fake news to these guys. NPR, PBS, fake news. Ironically, a lot of fake news is on the right, with Fox and talk radio and other such outlets. So yeah, Democrats and news media had stolen the election. Again, not true. There is no stealing involved. And he pressured Pence to block the certification of the election. A home bank is going to do the right thing. He has the absolute right to do that. I don't know if this is a good time to interject once again. Not a fan of Mike Pence at all. On a lot of issues, he's closer to Brent Pakistani. Yeah. But on this particular day, I think he did the right thing. Absolutely. He said, look, I don't have the rights to single-handedly overturn an election because that's ignoring the voice of the people. I'm there just for ceremonial purposes. And he did what he felt was right, just act in a ceremonial role. All right, he had absolutely no rights to try to overturn anything. Moving on. So in the first half of Donnie's speech at about 12:15 p.m., Donnie told the crowd that he would join a march to the Capitol after his remarks. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you never take a country, we never take back a country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong. Again, sounds like he's inciting violence. He's telling them to go to the Capitol, and he's using language like you have to show strength, and you have to be strong. Again, sounds like he's provoking them to attack people. Later added, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That's not what happened. There's nothing peaceful or patriotic about what's going to follow. Nothing at all. Idiot. So some members of the crowd immediately started walking to the Capitol. 12:42 p.m. A confluence of events heightened tensions for both law enforcement and demonstrators. So first, at 12:42 p.m., the U.S. Capitol Police reported that a pipe bomb had been discovered near the headquarters of the RNC, Republican National Committee. In response, the Capitol Police diverted officers and resources to the site to secure the site of the bomb, evacuate nearby buildings, and investigate. So, yeah, there was that. And this is later on in the document, they found another one at the DNC building. So, 12:53 p.m. It's a closer shot of the Capitol, and points at the peace circle on the west side, on the northern edge. So, by 12:53 p.m., before Donnie's speech concluded, key members of the Proud Boys and other pro-Donnie demonstrators had gathered at the Peace Circle on the west side of the Capitol grounds, an area guarded by a small number of police. Rioters soon overwhelmed the police bike racks, knocking U.S. Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards to the ground. Who's attacking who? Alright. These rioters are attacking police. Okay. The crowd then massed along the west front of the Capitol, where scaffolding and stages have been set up for the upcoming inauguration. Yeah, inauguration's in 2 weeks at this point. 1:02 p.m. It highlights the Senate chambers, which is the northern part of the Capitol. So the southern part, that's the House. 1:02 p.m. Pence announces that he will not yield to Donnie's pressure and would proceed to certify the election. And so once again, good job on Mike Pence for this. Quoting Pence, "It is my considered judgment that my oath to support and defend the Constitution constrains me from claiming unilateral authority to determine which electoral votes should be counted and which should not." Pence's announcement enrages many demonstrators. Who gives a fuck? Alright, he made the right call. He was not in a position to make that call or that determination. So once again, kudos. And then here's the second pipe bomb. 1:03 to 1:07 p.m. at the and there was a red pickup too. So, and this all just happened south of the Capitol. As rioters began to surge onto the west front of the Capitol grounds, Capitol Police made two alarming discoveries, adding to the chaos and further diverting attention and resources. 1:03 p.m. near the headquarters of the RNC, officers found a red pickup truck belonging to a Donnie supporter. The vehicle contained an assault rifle, a handgun, ammunition, and 11 Molotov cocktails. Then at about 1:05 p.m., Capitol Police discovered an additional pipe bomb near the headquarters of the DNC. The FBI later determined that the pipe bombs were placed on the evening of January 5th, so they had been there overnight. A suspect in the bombing was arrested in 2025 and allegedly told investigators that he believed the 2020 election had been tampered with and opposed to both political parties. Idiot! 1:10 p.m. So rally still happening on the Ellipse. So as Donnie wrapped up his speech at the Ellipse, he told the crowd, and this is a quote. I don't know how you could take this any other way than as a quote to incite violence. We fight like hell. If you don't fight like hell, you're not gonna have a country anymore. How is that not inciting violence? Moments later at 1:10 p.m., Donnie finishes his speech, again urging the crowd to march to the Capitol. 1:10 to 2:12 p.m., so over the span of the next hour. It's a close-up map of the Capitol highlighting the western front, the west side of the building. And there's video as well. I encourage you to go there, go to the site yourself and play the video. So after Donnie finishes his speech, more people joined the mob on the west front of the Capitol, where violence against police continued to escalate. Rioters used pepper spray, bear spray, and other weapons to assault police. At approximately 2 p.m., police played a recorded message on a loudspeaker saying, "All people must leave the area immediately. Failure to comply with this order may subject you to arrest and may subject you to the use of a riot control agent or impact weapon." Alright, so these people were warned. Alright. 12:13 p.m. shows a doorway breached near the Senate chambers. So at 2:13 p.m., a group of rioters broke through police lines and reached a doorway on the northwest side of the Capitol. A member of the Proud Boys, Dominic Pizzola, used a stolen police shield to break a window, allowing rioters to enter the building. This marks the first breach of the Capitol. Members of Congress were still on the Senate and House floors, and Pence and congressional staff were also still inside. Right. At 2:24 p.m., Donnie posted to Twitter from the White House, "Mike Pence does not the courage to do what should be done to protect our country and our Constitution, giving states a chance to certify a corrected set of facts, not the fraudulent or inaccurate ones which they were asked to previously certify. USA demands the truth." Fuck you. Alright? They had the legitimate votes there to be counted. Alright? None of this fake elector bull crap that they tried to pull off. And that's a different part of the story, of course. But they had the legitimate votes there. Pence once again said he had no right to unilaterally try to overturn them. So Pence did the right thing once again. All right. 2:25 p.m. Now highlights the East Rotunda doors breached on the east side of the building, right in the middle of the building there. So 2:25 p.m., 1 minute after Donnie attacked Pence in a tweet, Secret Service escorted Pence and his family from the Capitol. Rioters had come within 40 feet of Pence. That's some scary shit, being 40 feet from a crowd that wants to do harm to you, if not outright kill you as well. See you later. Meanwhile, at approximately the same time, rioters violently breached the East Rotunda doors of the Capitol. This entrance was subsequently used by members of the Oath Keepers, which are a far-right militia group, who entered the building in a military-style stack formation. Scary shit. 2:35. So this map is highlighting the House chamber on the south side of the building. So at 2:35 p.m., rioters reached a vestibule to a door outside the U.S. House chamber. Rioters broke glass panels to the door and subsequently confronted law enforcement trying to protect members of Congress sheltering inside. A rioter recorded this video. Again, there's a video up there. I'm not going to play it, but you can if you want to, if you're watching this. According to the video, of the door to the House chamber as law enforcement pointed guns at them. Well, no shit, they're going to point guns at you, idiot. Yeah, you're there illegally. 2:38 p.m. Donnie posts to Twitter, "Please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They're truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful." All the while, these idiots are attacking law enforcement and Capitol Police. So Donnie posted this message more than an hour and a half after rioters first assaulted Capitol Police and entered the restricted areas by the Capitol. 2:39 p.m. Peter Welch, then a congressman from Vermont, posted on Twitter that he and other members of Congress trapped in the House chamber had been instructed to put on a gas mask. Some members of Congress prayed or made calls to family members, fearing they were about to be killed. That's some serious shit right there. Yeah, actual members of Congress being trapped in the chamber, fearing for their lives. That's fucked up. That should not be happening. 2:42 p.m. Rioters had breached the chamber of the U.S. Senate. 2:44 p.m. Rioters reached a set of doors leading to another entrance to the House floor. This would be the Speaker's lobby, and the map shows where approximately the Speaker's lobby is, like in the southernmost edge of the House chamber on the south side, and it shows and it's also highlighting a lower west terrace tunnel on the west side of the building. 2:44 p.m. a group of rioters reached a set of doors leading to another entrance to the House floor, the Speaker's lobby. A rioter named Zachary Allen smashed the window. Way to go, idiot. On the other side of the door, a member of the U.S. Capitol Police, Michael Byrd, had his gun raised. Obviously, he's there to protect the property, right? A 35-year-old rioter named Ashley Babbitt began to climb through the opening. Byrd fired a single shot, striking Babbitt in the shoulder, and she later died from her wounds. And this is a good time to stop. Ashley Babbitt was not a martyr. All right, she was a fucking traitor, as well as the rest of them. Okay, she and Charlie Kirk should not be canonized the way the right is trying to canonize them. they should they should be ignored by history as traitors to America, and as she certainly was. So I don't want to hear it anymore from that side. So the riots continued for another 2 hours, with rioters breaching multiple entrances across the Capitol. Some of the most extreme violence took place in a tunnel on the lower west terrace of the U.S. Capitol, where police maintained a line against the mob. Alright, so that's it for maps. So the J6 attack on the Capitol was the most videotaped crime in American history, if not world history. There. So that's why your whitewashing won't work, because there's video of what took place. Alright, you can't say that it's a day of love with this video existing. Alright. According to Greg Rosen, a former federal prosecutor who led the Justice Department's unit that investigated the riot. Despite that extensive visual record, these idiots brought cameras with them too, so hence making it the most videotaped crime in history. Conspiracy theories and misinformation had spread, including claims that the rioters were unarmed. That's obviously bullshit. That the breach resembled a normal tourist visit. That's funny. That's funny. If I'm doing a tourist thing, I'm not fighting with security or police. And police were not seriously harmed. To bullshit. 5 officers died as a result of this. 2 by suicide. NPR reviewed thousands of videos presented in court. The footage showed in vivid detail how many rioters used weapons to assault officers, called for war, revolution, and political executions, and in some cases looted the Capitol and used drugs inside the building. View a selection of these records for yourself. So, some more video, and I'm not going to play any of that video. So, came in hot, the weapons of J6. Video evidence showed that rioters were armed with multiple weapons, including, in some cases, firearms. Okay, that's one video. And I don't know if you can hear that, but yeah, that's a video that just decided to play on its own. But it shows, yeah, they're using flagpoles and their own weapons against the cops. I believe there's a crutch there being used. Yeah, I'm not going to play any more of this. So, this is war. How rioters justify political violence. Again, we discussed this on this podcast. Political violence is never justified. Ever. I don't care who you are. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Political violence is never justified. Video captures Donnie supporters at the Capitol calling for civil war, violence against police, and the execution of their political opponents. This is our house, which you defiled. How rioters trashed the Capitol. Amid the violence of J6, some people also smashed windows and doors, took possessions from the Capitol, damaged equipment from media outlets, and even celebrated the riot by drinking alcohol in the Capitol and smoking cigarettes and marijuana. The Department of Justice estimated that the attack caused approximately $3 million in damage. See, if it was actually your house, you'd be treating it with a little more respect than these people did. I need fucking help. How rioters injured officers. Department of Justice estimated that 140 police officers were injured in the attack. So, yeah, what's that about cooperating with the police and and that the police were on your side, blah, blah, blah. 140 officers injured. Officers suffered traumatic brain injuries, lacerations, crushed spinal discs, and were repeatedly exposed to chemical sprays. All right. I don't know if you've ever experienced a pepper spraying. I pepper sprayed myself mildly when I was a security officer myself. That shit stings for days. That shit stings for days. Okay? Many officers say they have lifelong injuries as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. Alright? And we're back to timelines again. So 4:17 p.m. It was more than 2 hours after the breach of the Capitol. So those fuckers have been inside for at least a couple of hours, destroying the place. Trying to find Mike Pence and then Speaker Pelosi to try to kill them. Yeah. At 4:17 p.m., more than 2 hours after the breach of the Capitol, Donnie posted a video repeating his false claims of election fraud and praised his supporters, while also calling on them to go home. I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us. It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it. No, it was not stolen from you. That's the point. It was not stolen from you. You lost fair and square. He urged his supporters to leave the Capitol. So go home. We love you. You're very special. You've seen what happens. You've seen the way others are treated. They're so bad and so evil. Says an evil fuck himself. I know how you feel, but go home. And go home. Hey, peace. Yeah. You evil bastard. Excuse me a sec. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Had to take care of something. Alright. So, back to where we were. Alright, so we're now at 4:50 p.m. In the western front of the Capitol. So around 4:50 p.m., police, who have received backup from other agencies, were able to clear rioters out of the building. The D.C. National Guard arrived at 5:40 p.m. 4 hours after the Capitol Police Chief first began reaching out to officials for National Guard support. That's ridiculous. 4 hours to call in the National Guard. It's fucking ridiculous. Dude. But this is a consequence of D.C. not being a state yet. Needs to be. Let's make D.C. statehood happen already. 6:01 p.m. Donnie posts to Twitter. These are the things and events that happen when a sacred landslide election victory is so unceremoniously and viciously stripped away from great patriots that have been badly and unfairly treated for so long. Go home with love and peace. Remember this day forever. Okay, before I go on to the next part, let's go over to our good friends over at Wikipedia and take a quick look-see at the 2020 election. Where are those elections? Okay, here we go. Presidential election protests. No, that's not what I want. I want electoral college votes count. So the official counts: Biden 306, Donnie 232, Biden carried 25 states, plus the District of Columbia, plus Nebraska's 2nd district. So Nebraska and Maine, they do things a little differently. They do the two Senate electoral votes go to whoever won the state, and then the other electoral votes get broken down by congressional district. So, and then Donnie got 25 plus Maine's 2nd district, and there were no objections to most of the states. The only 2 objections came towards Arizona and Pennsylvania. Arizona 11 electoral votes, Pennsylvania had 20, and all 31 of those votes went to Biden. And they attempted to object to Nevada was 6, Georgia was 16, Michigan was 16, and Wisconsin with 10. And as for that popular vote, since we're talking about that, I'm going to look at that as well. And this was with a 66.6% electoral turnout, which is pretty good. Again, a lot of it was voting by mail because there's a pandemic going on. Popular votes: Biden 81,283,501. Donnie 74,223. 975. So not even close. Donnie, not only did you lose the electoral vote, you lost the popular votes by 7 million, give or take. So nice try, dipshit. Anyway, 8:06 p.m. Pence calls the Senate to order. And at 9:02 p.m., Speaker of the House Pelosi, sorry about that. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi calls the House to order. Right. The following morning at 3:44 a.m., Congress finally certifies the 2020 election results, which I just cited. That's Biden won fair and square. Here are 7 deaths directly linked to the J6 attack. Kevin Greason and Benjamin Phillips died due to medical emergencies they suffered while in the crowd outside the Capitol. Ashley Babbitt, we just talked about, shot and killed by police inside the Capitol while attempting to climb through a barricaded door to the Speaker's lobby, which leads to the House chamber. Roseanne Boylan collapsed and was crushed by the mob during a period of intense fighting near the Lower West Terrace tunnel. A subsequent report from a D.C. medical examiner attributed her death to an accidental overdose of amphetamines, which she was using for ADHD. Capitol Police Officer Brian Sicknick assaulted with pepper spray while defending the Capitol. Later that evening, Sicknick collapsed and was taken to the hospital, and he died the next day. Washington medical examiner determined that Sicknick died due to natural causes, the result of 2 strokes. And Sicknick's family told NPR that they believe the riot contributed to his death. I am inclined to agree with him. And then 2 other officers who defended the Capitol on January 6th, Jeffrey Smith and Howard Levengood, died of suicide in the days immediately following the attack. Department of Justice formally classified their deaths as in the line of duty. In addition to these deaths, Department of Justice estimated that the attack cost approximately $3 million in damage to the Capitol itself. A reporting from the U.S. Government Accountability Office identified a total of $2.7 billion in costs to taxpayers related to this attack, including, among other things, funds to address security needs and investigations. Thank you very much, Donnie, for that. Meanwhile, police officers who served on J6 are still coping with the aftermath of the attack. In court, police officers who responded to the violence of J6 describes the physical and mental injuries they suffered. Court documents redacted some of the names due to concerns of threats and harassment. No kidding. So I'm just going to read some. There's some quotes here, and there's some parts I highlighted. I'll just read the highlighted parts. One officer said, "We all thought we were going to die." Another said, "J6 was a nightmare for me that nearly cost me my life." Another one said, "My family will never be the same again." And still another one said, "Before I was attacked, I could run and play with my children and enjoy time and activities with my wife." Chapter 4, The Investigation. Political leaders across the spectrum, including Donnie himself, called for the rioters to face justice. But because so few people were arrested during the attack itself, extremists who led the riot remained free. And some made comments suggesting more violence was coming. Joe Biggs, a Proud Boys leader, said J6 was just a warning shot. You call that a warning shot? Just days after the riot, Stuart Rhodes, the leader of the Oath Keepers, was recorded discussing violence against Pelosi. Federal prosecutors later introduced the recording as evidence at trial. So again, I'm not going to play it, but I'm going to read the quotes. He said, "We shoved our rifles. We could have fixed this right then and there. I'd hang fucking Pelosi from the lamppost." Seriously. The federal investigation into the Capitol attack was the largest in American history, leading to the arrest of more than 1,500 people from all 50 states in the country. The most serious cases were made against leaders of the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, so both Biggs and Rhodes were among the extremists ultimately convicted of seditious conspiracy against the U.S. for their roles in planning the attack. My understanding is it can't be treason because we're not at war. But if we were at war, these would be treasonous activities, and that is punishable by death, and that is in the Constitution. So J6 prosecutions by the numbers. 1,575 total federal arrests. 418 accused of violence. Two out of 1,575 fully acquitted at trial. Just 2. That's less than 1. That is way less than 1%. 1,030 pled guilty. That's about 2/3 pled guilty. The highest sentence went to Enrique Tarrio, 22 years. This dude is a leader of the Proud Boys. He was convicted of seditious conspiracy. The median sentence for all cases, it was 30 days. Not long enough, I don't think. For cases with some jail time, 210 days. Not long enough. Percentage of sentenced defendants who went to jail or prison, quite high. Quite high. How's this for love? 64%. Percentage of riot defendants with ties to extremist groups, 12%. Percentage of riot defendants with past history of law enforcement, 1.8%. So it's fortunately very low. Percentage of riot defenders who served in the military, 14.6%. So what the fuck is happening with our military that this is acceptable? And it shows a link to that database where you can read all the charges against everyone who was sentenced. So, Chapter 5, the pardons and the rewriting of history, or the attempted rewriting of history. While Donnie initially condemned the attacks, he soon began embracing the rioters, describing them as political prisoners and hostages. No, they broke the law. They committed borderline treasonous acts against the United States, and they're being held to account for their crimes. Alright, that's how that works. That's how it should have worked against this jackass. 34 counts in New York, and that was just one indictment. I highly recommend everyone check out Jack Smith's testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, because he lays it on thick. If it weren't for Donnie, this never happens. If it wasn't for Donnie egging everyone on, saying, "You fight like hell. If you don't fight like hell, you ain't gonna have a country anymore." Not for that, this never happens. If not. And the J6 committee also came to similar conclusions. Alright. This sick son of a bitch was probably the most responsible. And very stupid people let him back into office. Very stupid people. So when Donnie won the 24 election, which I will concede he did win fair and square, again, because we had a shitty candidate on our side. His transition team did not indicate precisely who would receive the pardons. On January 12, 2025, just 8 days before the inauguration, incoming Vice President Vance, or thanks to South Park's interpretation of him, we now call him Hervé Villechaize Vance here uncalled for. I'll explain the joke in a little bit. But he told Fox News Sunday, again, fake news source, that, of course, the administration would not pardon defendants convicted of assaulting police. And I'll explain the Hervé Villechaize Vance. So for those of you under the age of 50, in the late 70s, early 80s, there was a TV show called Fantasy Island. And one of the one of the regulars on Fantasy Island was an actor named Hervé Villechaize. He played he was a dwarf, and played the character of Tattoo, who was the assistant to the guy running the place, played by Ricardo Montalban. His catchphrase was "Deep lane, deep lane." That plane was coming with some visitors to their island. There, honestly had issues dealing with his condition and wound up committing suicide in the late 80s. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate, but of the video I was able to find of Hervé Villechaize on YouTube, he turns to art as a way to escape bullying. And I think it didn't really start acting until until later. So he was an artist first who found acting. So anyway, in South Park, they depict Vance as a tattoo-like character. So Hervé Valdez, Vance. So, yeah, we'll be calling him Hervé from now on. So, I think it's very simple. Look, if you protested peacefully on J6 and you had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned. This is Hervé talking. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And that's a little bit of there's a little bit of a gray area there. So, okay, you bring up Merrick Garland. All right. So, first of all, Merrick Garland, of course, was Attorney General under Biden. Unfortunately, I do agree that he messed up. However, not in the way that Hervé is trying to demonstrate. No, Garland messed up because he slow-walked the whole thing. Waited until after the J6 committee released their reports to even appoint Jack Smith in the first place as a special counsel, right? And maybe Merrick Garland isn't even AG if, and this is a very important hypothetical here, if he was actually named to the Supreme Courts. All right. Let's go back to 2016. Scalia dies, opens a seat on the Supreme Court. Obama nominated Garland to fill that seat, and Senate Republicans refused to even hold a hearing for the guy. All right. And kept that seat open until after Donnie got elected the first time. And then they proved to be hypocrites on that near the end of Donnie's first term, and replaced Ruth Bader Ginsburg in lightning speed. All right. So yeah. The Republican Party full of hypocrites. There. Back to the article. So, as one of his first acts back in office, Donnie issued mass pardons to J6 defendants. Only 14 defendants, all of whom were linked to extremist groups, received commutations rather than full pardon, meaning they were released from prison, but their convictions remained on the records. Donnie's pardon also included defendants who had prior criminal records for crimes including sexual assault, so that Donnie is himself being been sued for and is the subject of those Epstein files, manslaughter, and rape. The administration subsequently deleted a government database of J6 cases, and evidence began disappearing from a site maintained to share court exhibits with the media. NPR joined a coalition of media organizations that went to federal courts to preserve access to video evidence from the J6 cases. Hundreds of those videos are now publicly accessible through NPR's database of all these prosecutions. So, thank you, NPR, for saving these records. That's the power of the press right there, that they can save shit that would otherwise be deleted. See also the St. Louis lawsuit against the NFL, because there's a lot of stuff that we wouldn't have known about had St. Louis Press not requested that information be saved. So, on June 6, 2025, Donnie's administration settled a lawsuit brought by Ashley Babbitt's family for $4.975 million. Later that year, on November 7, Donnie granted a sweeping pardon to all U.S. citizens for any conduct related to their efforts in to expose voting fraud and vulnerabilities in the 2020 presidential election. These people are now scot-free. These criminals are now scot-free because of Donnie. The immediate effect of that pardon, which applies to federal charges, was largely symbolic. Donnie had also stocked his administration with people who advocated for J6 defendants, spread conspiracy theories about the attack, and in one instance was a defendant himself. Those people include Kash Patel, FBI director, spread conspiracy theories about J6, and produced a song with J6 defendants. Stay classy, jackass. Dan Bongino, deputy FBI director through January 26, spread conspiracy theories about J6. Rachel Cowley, communications director for White House Office of Management and Budget, advocated for J6 defendants. Jared Wise, official at the Justice Department, former J6 defendant who stormed the Capitol and urged rioters to kill cops. Jonathan Gross, official at Department of Justice, former defense lawyer for J6 defendants. Paul Ingracia, apologies if I'm mispronouncing it, acting general counsel for the U.S. General Services Administration, advocated for J6 defendants. Ed Martin, U.S. pardon attorney and director of the Justice Department's Weaponization Working Group. And I'm assuming in this case they mean the bullshits they were spreading about Biden trying to weaponize DOJ. That was not the case at all. That was not the case at all. He was holding those people to that Justice Department was trying to hold people to account. That is not weaponization. That is holding people accountable for your fucking crimes. Now, what these people are doing is closer to weaponization. So, get that out of the way. So this Martin guy advocated for J6 defendants, served as defense attorney for multiple J6 defendants. Dozens of federal prosecutors who worked on J6 cases. You know what happened with them? They were fired by Donnie. They had argued that the firings were retaliation for just doing their fucking jobs. Exactly. They have since faced harassment and death threats. Likely from the right, because there we go again. Well, how about this? Since receiving pardons from Donnie, some former J6 defendants have faced additional legal trouble. I believe I saw something earlier today that like 33 people have reoffended in some way, shape, or form. Among these cases, we have an Andrew Paul Johnson who pled not guilty to charges in Florida for alleged child sexual abuse. I'm not going to read much further. But you sick fuck. David Daniel pled not guilty to federal charges of production of and possession of let's you see a substitute cheese pizza there. You sick fuck. Making cheese pizza. Christopher Moynihan, arrested in New York in October for allegedly threatening House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, writing that, quote, he must be eliminated. I will kill him for the future. Pled not guilty. He was previously convicted at trial of obstructing an official proceeding. And we know the rest there. So, Robert Packer photographed storming the Capitol while wearing a Camp Auschwitz sweatshirt. So, Holocaust denier. And later pleaded guilty to nonviolent charges for his role in the riot. He subsequently faced multiple criminal charges for alleged violent attacks by by his dogs. And according to local news reports, one of the dog attacks sent multiple victims to the hospital. And then, this one's, I've seen the video for this clown. So days after receiving a pardon, Matthew Huddle was pulled over by a sheriff's deputy in Jasper County, Indiana, for speeding. I'm a bit of a speeder myself. Don't come at me. I have been ticketed for speeding a couple times. So, and always paid it off and never give the officers any lip. But anyway, in addition to his nonviolent J6 charges, to which he pled guilty, Huddle had a history of legal trouble from drunk driving and child abuse. Go figure. After the sheriff's deputy told Huddle that he was under arrest as a habitual traffic offender, this idiot decides to reach for a handgun, and the deputy shot and killed him. The shooting was ruled justified. And in response to NPR's questions about Donnie's pardons, White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson, who should not have a job after this, said that Donnie exercised his constitutional authority to issue pardons to individuals who were abused by the Biden justice system and aggressively over-prosecuted for political purposes. No, they were not prosecuted for political purposes. They were prosecuted because they broke the law. Okay? They broke the law. That is what happens when you break the law. You get prosecuted. Alright? Nothing political about it. And Smith himself said, no, there's nothing political about any of this. Alright. So, judges from across the spectrum condemned the J6 attack. Few people saw as much of the evidence from the Capitol riot as the judges who oversaw all the J6 cases. These judges heard arguments from prosecutors and defense attorneys, sat through hours of witness testimony, and reviewed extensive evidence presented at trial. Regardless of their ideological leanings or the president who appointed them, the judges described the attack on the Capitol as a threat to democracy and a stain on this nation's history. You got that right. Once again, same with the police officers earlier. I'm just going to read the highlighted quotes from these judges and also tell you which president appointed them. So, this one, Reagan appointee. This is not normal. This cannot become normal. This is a Donnie appointee. And that previously unbroken tradition is now broken. I think I need to read the whole quotes there. That day broke our previously unbroken tradition of peacefully transferring power, which is truly among the most precious things that we had as Americans, and that previously unbroken tradition is broken now. It's going to take time and efforts to fix it. This one, another Donnie appointee. You participated in a national embarrassment. And then this is an Obama appointee right here. Our long tradition of peaceful transfers of power, which until January 6, 2021, served as a model to the world. And then Judge Colleen Collier Gotelli, who was appointed to the bench by Clinton, wrote that Donnie's pardons and commutations could not change the truth of what took place on J6 established in courts across more than 1,500 cases. These records are immutable and represent the truth, no matter how the events of J6 are described by those charged or their allies. So no, this was not about stolen elections or and don't even dare try to blame this on Democrats, because this was your people. Take some fucking responsibility. And I'll close with this. That is the litmus test. Just ask anyone when they register to vote, who won the 2020 presidential election. If their answer is anything but Biden, they shouldn't be allowed to vote. Period. And I will end with that. So check that out at npr.org. January 6th, visual archive of the events of that day. This is not a peaceful protest. And we will talk again very soon. This podcast is Uncalled For, is hosted, produced, and edited by myself, Mike Chernevsky. Our opening music is the This Podcast is Uncalled For theme, created at suno.com, suno.com. Our outro music for this episode is The Patriot by Pamela Yuen, licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 4.0 International License. You can find this music at freemusicarchive.org.
Please support the podcast and purchase our exclusive Uncalled For merchandise. T-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, stickers, and so much more. Go to www.cafepress.com/uncalledforpod. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.